Joe, are you tired? Do you need a nap? Or are you hungry and need something to eat? Because this is the time where your foot and mouth meet. It's funny how bad one man looks on the news and the other is protected like a pair of new shoes. I thought Disney was in Florida, not along the Texas border, but the magical world of make believe made everything in order. The shame that was noted not only on Fox, even the cunning network nuisance had it on the box. We have to finally admit the border is a mess, because without that, there can be no progress. But maybe that is the desired effect. Maybe that is what they expect. Not to turn the country brown, that would be absurd. But to make the ruled class larger, beef up their herd. The more poor people they hook onto their bait, the more people will vote for them and not hesitate. They love the free money they get from one side, while the other protects our pockets, and they call them Bonnie and Clyde. Right and wrong is not what should be diagnosed, but we need to ask ourselves, who is profiting most? Welcome to Divided We Stand. I am Jimmy J, and that man who just popped up over there in the flesh right now, looking fresh to death with his new haircut, his shorter beard. You are looking good, my man.
I'm excited to be here. I'm glad to be back on Divided We Stand. We got so much to talk about, and I'm glad that you're already off to just talking complete nonsense. That's great. It's the way to do it.
I believe Joe's 2 minutes of garbage comes up later. All right, look at man. Before we even begin, how you feeling, brother?
Oh, thank you for asking. I feel great. The good news, I did go in for another procedure, got another stent put in my heart. They were going to put in two. They decided to only put in one because there's a lot of blood now getting into my heart, and they're very excited about that. So the long-term prognosis is I'll be around for a very long time, which is bad news for Republicans, but good news for everyone else.
The only good news, the only people that are happy about that is probably MSNBC. Maybe meet Rachel Maddow.
Yeah,
they all they like the garbage crap. So hey, but I got a quick video to show everybody here, real quick. All right, we're gonna play this video. It's about 30 seconds long. Hold on.
Have you been briefed, sir, on the top secret documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago?
No.
No one has come to you to warn you that important national security secrets were revealed by the storage of those documents at the former president's home?
I have not personally spoken to anyone in that regard. I'm sure my administration is aware of all of that, and so is the National Security Council, but I have not.
Were you notified of the FBI's execution of a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago?
No, not ahead of time.
The FBI spread the documents out on a floor to make a record of what was found.
When you saw the photograph of the top secret documents laid out on the floor at Mar-a-Lago, what did you think to yourself, looking at that image?
How that could possibly happen. How anyone could be that irresponsible.
Really? I don't know, Joe. How can anybody be that irresponsible? That's a good question. Maybe somebody should ask him that question. What do you think there, Joe?
Well, they did ask him that question. And unlike the previous president, this guy was like, oh, yeah, I messed up.
Okay. What is that supposed to do? Does that exonerate him? I mean,
no.
Does that make everything okay? Now,
no.
Besides that, hold on. Besides that there, Joseph, the president of the United States has the authority to declassify documents. Now, I will grant you that there is procedures and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Right? He does. And if
Yeah.
he said he did, okay, whatever. I don't know. Right? But if he declassified those documents, he can have them all that he wants.
Yeah.
Joe, as vice president, does not have the authority to declassify documents. So there never should have been in his possession for that amount of time, period. You've broken the law. And now that you owned up to it, you're supposed to be forgiven? Is that how it works? Because if I go and shoot you, Joe, if I come over to your house and shoot you,
Yeah.
I go to the police station, hey man, I did this. I'm really sorry, but I'm owning up to it. I doubt any cop anywhere is going to go, all right, cool, man. There you go. There's the door.
You'd get a better deal from the prosecutor, though, if you came right up and fessed up to it.
Oh, you get a better deal.
Sure.
But you don't get a pass.
No, and he's not getting a pass. They named a special prosecutor today to look into it. Merrick Garland.
That is incorrect, my friend.
No, it's not incorrect.
They appointed him 3 months ago when this first came to light, without anybody knowing about it. Merrick Garland appointed a special counsel 3 months ago.
That's great.
So I'm not saying, did Merrick Garland do the correct thing? Yes. Did Joe Biden do the right thing? Absolutely. Does he get a pat on the back and I'll give him a small round of applause for owning up to it?
Sure.
But he still broke the damn law. And you know what? It's completely and utterly irresponsible.
Yeah. So you agree Trump should be in prison then?
It depends. I mean, now look it. If those documents in Mar-a-Lago, right? Because we've said this how many months ago, Joe, right?
It was like June.
Right? And what have they come up with? Nothing. There's nothing yet. There's no send you to jail document.
They've come up with the same stuff that they've come up on Hunter Biden's laptop in 2 years. Nothing.
Touche. However, there's already talks about what are in Joe Biden's. Now, speculation. So I'm not even going to repeat them here because again, you and I, we go at each other. We're righties and lefties, but we still like to wait for the facts before we spout off, right? And you know what? I like that about us, right? I mean, we can speculate all we want, right? And say, "Hey, look at this is my opinion," but we like to wait for the facts. And the fact is, nothing's come out of Mar-a-Lago, nothing. And I remember those episodes. I remember you saying, "If this turns out to be a big nothing burger,
Well, look, I think honestly, the FBI is at a crossroads where they can't afford to, be playing favorites or taking sides. They're definitely in the position where they got to do everything on the up and up. And so, and that applies. Look, it applies in both cases with both of these presidents. And again, me personally, I'll wait until we see evidence one way or the other, whether there was actual information that was jeopardized or in some way, again, if this put some human spy in harm's way, then yeah, there should be a penalty to pay. That's one of the accusations against Trump, was that he may have given or sold that information to a foreign government. If that turns out to be the case, he should be hung in the gallows. But if that's
quartered,
right, but again, if that's not the case, then probably not a big deal. Again, I go back to James Comey and Hillary Clinton in 2016, the October surprise, and she was careless in handling of classified emails, and that was it.
Yeah, I don't understand why it's because you know what, Joe? Here's the thing. I had a clearance when I was in the military.
Yeah, you'd be court-martialed immediately if you had classified information in an unsecured location. Yes.
So this is what it appears to me, man. I mean, look, this is just what it appears to Jimmy J here, right? It's okay for the Democrats, and it's just a mistake But when you have a Republican or anybody else out of power, it's FBI raiding your house. Now, I mean, I don't know what you think about that or if you've noticed that as well, but the optics there are not friggin' good, brother.
All right,
Not good.
let's not throw the word raid around, because a raid would insinuate that somebody came in and kicked your door down and didn't, call ahead to the Secret Service and say,
Whatever
"Hey,
you
we're
want to
coming.
call it, my friend.
Let us in." Yeah,
Whatever
not a
you
raid.
want to call it, all right? The search and seizure of his property. How about that? Was that better?
Fair. That's better.
All right. Well, nobody else has gotten that, so it's only really against the Republican side. So can you imagine why the trust in our DOJ system, the FBI, is waning a little bit here?
No.
Here's the thing: you can't get away with it anymore. All these little games and I'm not saying it's just the Democrats. I will not say that. We both know that they both play their stupid little games, but you can't get away with anything anymore. Everything is on camera. Everything is recorded. And right now, every recording on the television, whether it be CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, all the freaking alphabet out there, right? It looks one-sided. We're going to send the cops and the FBI into Mar-a-Lago into a Republican's house. But when it's a Democrat doing it, and you've just named three, it's just it was just a mistake. Now, we're not stupid. The American people are not stupid, and we see with our own eyes. We can put two and two together, and there's no possible. I mean, there you can't explain it, right? You can't justify it. Nobody can. So the trust and the confidence in the DOJ, in the FBI, in the police departments, I can understand why it would be waning in the American people. I can understand it. I don't, my trust is in the police departments and the system hasn't waned, but I can understand why it would. You know what? No, that's not true. Mine has, actually. And I think the Twitter files have, kind of another thing.
Yeah. Let me also point out that the National Archives had requested the documents at Mar-a-Lago for about a year and a half. And former President Trump and his attorney insisted that they had handed everything over, even though the National Archives knew that they hadn't. And so, again, there's this certain level of accountability. There's this certain level, and again, I'm not saying the guy gets a free pass for this, but he's not playing games here, and this isn't like a joke to him. President Biden is taking this very seriously. He apologized. If there's some penalty, I'm sure he'd be happy to take it. The difference in this situation, again, and we know how Donald Trump is, he likes to double down. And
he can never be wrong.
He can never be wrong. Again, Joe Biden has no prey. You know what? You're right. I did say it would be super careless for someone to do this. And I guess I did it too. I think that's the difference. As far as, again, they immediately did they've done the right thing months ago. We didn't even know it.
Joe. Doesn't matter.
It does matter.
Doesn't matter.
It does matter.
I'll prove it to you 1,000 different ways that it doesn't matter.
Go ahead.
Okay. Number one, if I kill you and go to the police department right away, do I get a pass?
But
no.
This isn't a murder thing. This isn't murder.
Cool. If I go 150 miles an hour down the highway.
Jimmy, if I accidentally, say I was at your home and hold on. No. Listen, let's say I took your favorite pipe.
Good for the goose is good for the oldest gander in the flock.
I take your favorite lighter and I stick it in my pocket by accident and I walk out of your house, and next thing I know, you're on Twitter and you're like, when I find out who took my lighter, I'm pressing charges. And I call the police department and I'm like, oh my God, he gave me his lighter. I put it in my pocket, and I left the house with it. I'd like to return it. That's more or less, again, you keep going to murder, which is an extreme crime. I'm talking about something a little more mild than that. Again, in the case, if I brought that lighter to the police station and I said, "Can you just please return this?"
Lighter, right? Okay, so I went to the extreme of murder, and
Yeah.
you went to the extreme of a freaking 99-cent lighter.
Yeah.
Compared to top secret classified.
Yeah.
I see how you work there, buddy.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I have driven 105, 110 miles an hour. If I got pulled over and said, "Oh, you're right, you got me. I was driving 110 miles an hour, officer. I'm very, very sorry. I was doing the wrong thing. I won't do it again." Am I not going to jail still?
I'll tell you a wonderful story. Let me tell you a wonderful story about a wonderful state trooper right here in the beautiful state of Connecticut. I was driving 101 miles an hour on the Wilbur-Cross Parkway out by exit 60 through a construction zone. And an officer pulled me over. And he said to me, he was pissed. He said, "You know why I pulled you over?" I go, "Yeah, I was tearing ass. Well, I shouldn't have done it. That was stupid." And you know what he did? He wrote down on my ticket that I was going 84 miles an hour. Because at 85 and above, that's reckless driving, and technically I should be arrested and the car impounded. Yep. And because I fessed up, I took ownership and admitted immediately how stupid it was. This police officer, without me asking or offering a bribe, fudged the records. Okay? So there are situations where, again, if you fess up, you are putting yourself in a better position that the penalty will be a little less severe.
So, top secret documents is one of those instances where Joe Aguiar would say, "Hey, man, I fessed up. It's cool. It's all right." Is that what I'm hearing from you?
I think it's important that we find out what these documents were. Again, if it jeopardized, a piece of human intelligence, national of any sort, then there should be ramifications. Again, I extend the same courtesy to Donald Trump. If there was nothing of importance in those Mar-a-Lago files, then I don't care at all. Because it seems to me, from the defense that he's put forth, he seems to think that Barack Obama took like 30,000 pages of documents to his library in Chicago. Why can't I? And it's like, those were copies that Obama took. Those were declassified, and he made copies. They're not even the original form. Jimmy, I think there are things that Donald Trump does not know and does not understand. And again, ignorance is certainly no excuse under the law. But I think, much like with this case with Joe Biden, much like with the Hillary Clinton thing, I think if there was no intent, I think you would have a really hard time bringing a case. And again, generally, prosecutors aren't going to bring a case that they don't think is an easy win for them.
It's an easy win, Joe. This is an easy win for any prosecutor.
Well, except for that you can't bring charges against the sitting president.
Look at number one, we both know nothing's ever going to happen, regardless. Right.
That's why it's not an easy case to win, dude. You have to understand that Bob Mueller was in a weird spot, and he specifically explained in his final report, "I can't charge a sitting president. That's a Justice Department precedent." So again, if you're a prosecutor and they give you this case, Joe Biden had these files, you're like,
No. I
can't really do anything here.
Right? I'm not saying against the sitting president. I'm not even saying against a senator or congressman. If it was Jimmy Battisti with his freaking clearance and I got freaking classified documents locked up in my closet here, what's
that? Who's that soldier War Horse or Victory Horse? Who was the soldier that's like locked up? Yeah. Trojan Horse or whatever her name was, Winning Horse. What am I talking about?
The two, there was a couple, right? You're talking about
the names escaping me, but yeah, it's like, oh, why is that person right? Why is that person in jail? Because that person was in the service, that person had access to classified documents, and now that person's in jail. It does it, and I'll tell you right now, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump certainly had access to documents that even you guys in the military would never even get to look at, let alone mishandle and not go to jail.
I'll teach everybody something right now. Top secret is not the highest clearance level. There is a clearance level called Yankee White. A Yankee White clearance level is a presidential clearance level. So there you go. I just taught everybody something as well. It's an educational program as well.
I like that.
Joe, I mean, you and I could sit here, we could talk about this all day long, but I really want to talk about this sham of a border wall trip for the president, Joe Biden. Now, you cannot disagree with me that it was jacked up, right? It was just a messed up situation that they cleaned up that area, like starting 3-4 nights prior. All he had to do was walk 3 more blocks down the road, and he would have saw the tents, the tent city with all the migrant overflow. And I'm not even talking this. I didn't even see this on Fox, by the way. I actually saw this on CNN, right? CNN is actually showing this. So if CNN is showing this, by the way, that is the cunning network nuisance.
That's fair.
You know, if CNN is showing that as well as Fox, as well as MSNBC, now, you know what? There's got to be some truth to that, right? They're showing, they showed the side-by-side comparisons of 2 days prior to the president getting there. There's tent city, there's garbage everywhere. And they show video of like hundreds of workers out there cleaning up the 2 days and making it all spit shine and new and shiny for the president of the United States.
It's respectful.
It's a sham, and you know it. And there's no other way to it, right? He doesn't have a clear picture. And you know what? He doesn't want one. It's evident. It is completely 100% evident they don't want to know what's going on. They don't. They want to turn a blind eye to the problem. In my opinion, this is what they want, right? Why do they want this? I said it in my opening. Not because they want to turn the country brown. You and I have discussed it ad nauseum. That is a stupid notion, right? One more time. 76% white, 16% brown. It ain't going to work, right? You're just not going to turn the country brown. It's because they're trying, and I'm a firm believer in this, they're making a permanent welfare class. That's what they're doing. And it's a shame. These are the people that we all complain about. These are the people that Democrats all cry and try to champion. They're never going to get ahead. They're never going to get ahead. We don't have anything for them. Well, you know what? When you tie them to a social welfare program, and how many states nowadays, Joe, do you know, make $100,000 or more? You can make $100,000 in government aid. Do you know how many states there are?
Let me point out one thing to you where I'll foil your plan. In order to be eligible for welfare or any government assistance, you have to be in the country for 5 years. So these immigrants crossing the border are playing the long game, apparently. They're just going to hide in the shadows for 5 years before they're eligible.
Well, you don't need to wait 5 years to get free health care anymore. You just go to Washington State, right? And you get free health care.
So, again, most people aren't going to Washington State. I think that's number one.
Well, you know, what's to stop them now? What's to say, you know what, maybe I don't want to go to America?
People in Washington would love that. They're the sanctuary state for a reason. They love people.
And that because they're not dealing with it, Joe.
Just sure. So,
just like DC did, just like frickin' Chicago did. Wait till they're on their doorstep. Then their tune is going to change, just like those 3 sanctuary cities.
Let me weigh in on the actual immigration situation that you brought up,
Right.
because I've been very clear about this. I think that this is nothing short of a disaster. I think the Biden administration has completely mishandled immigration and the border from day one.
Can I
I
talk
think,
about 1 second?
yeah, of course.
Every administration in the past 20 years have mishandled immigration, in my opinion.
With the exception of Donald Trump's final year, yes, I 100% agree with that. In the final year of his administration, and this is what people seem to forget, because for the first 3 years, he mishandled the border as terribly as Biden has. He cracked down. He got really tough in his last year. I assume he did that in hopes that he was going to get reelected.
That's true.
Okay.
Those numbers were pretty on par.
Yeah. So I just talked to Joe Walsh, the former Tea Party congressman who came into power in 2010 with McCarthy and Jim Jordan and the rest of what's now the House Freedom Caucus. And he told me this has been just what you said, an unmitigated disaster, decades in the making. That every president really since Ronald Reagan has completely mishandled immigration. And what we actually need, and we need for both sides here to get together, we need comprehensive immigration reform. We also need to do something about the DACA kids, the Dreamers as they're known. Joe was saying holding those people hostage is messed up. And that's something the Republicans have been doing for the last 6 years. That they're willing to make the Dreamers, who only know this country and have been here their entire lives, that they're using them as a bargaining chip to limit immigration in many other ways. Well, we need immigrants.
Well, you know what, Bill? Here's the thing. I'll solve the immigration problem right here, right now in our program.
Do it.
Ready?
Yes.
What can our social services handle? What can our school systems handle? What can our healthcare systems handle? What can our police forces handle? What can our social systems handle?
Yeah.
That's the number of immigrants that you allow in per year. Period.
You know what, Jimmy? The reason we had a quarantine in this country, right? It wasn't to keep people from getting COVID. It was to not overwhelm the healthcare system. Right. That was the whole idea behind the lockdowns, was we don't want to overwhelm the system. I like what you're saying here. I think there's a lot to that. And I think that does make a lot of sense. What can we actually handle? What makes the most amount of sense? What's a fair number? And then evenly
fair, Joe, right? If you go to the American people, if you you get on Fox News, CNN, you get on them all and be like, here, guys, our social systems, without taxing you a shit ton more, right? Because you could tax people more and then we can have more social systems. But without doing that, this is what our immigration system our social systems can handle through immigration. This is the number. It's not fair. It's not unfair. It's just reality. I think the American people will be like, all right, I don't like that it's that low, or I don't like that it's that high, but all right, I get that. I understand. I think they can handle that. I don't think American people are stupid. I think they can understand that. I will give you the point on the DACA, right? These kids they're Americans by this point. I'm sorry, So if the Republicans want to use them as a bargaining chip, then let them. Okay, guys, very well. You give me the DACA kids, I'll give you no abortions after 24 weeks. But that would be considered a compromise, would it not?
Yeah.
And that's just unheard of in today's day and age in politics, right? We're coming up on the end of my time here, which I really enjoyed tonight with you. But I wanted to share this little thing that I found, and I think you guys will enjoy it. And then right after this video, we'll come back with Joe's flip side.
And the question is whether or not we should be in a position where you why can't the experts say We know that this virus is, in fact, it's going to be, or excuse me, we know why all the drugs approved are not temporarily approved, but permanently approved. I'm running as a proud Democrat for the Senate. All men and women created by the go. You know the thing. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. We choose truth over facts. If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or
All right. I could go on for another minute with that, but I don't want to take up all of Joe's time. So
I enjoy that.
I saw that and I just had to play it. I did. I'm sorry. It was just too funny not to.
That's listen. I'll say this about Joe Biden. Joe Biden, as long as I've been alive and following politics, I thought Joe Biden was kind of a dope. And he has not let us down in that regard at all.
He, the gaff machine cometh. I love it.
Yeah, he's exactly what we expected, and he's exactly what we deserve.
He's not disappointing.
No, not at all. If there's one thing he's doing, it's delivering. That's for sure.
Go ahead, my friend.
All right, here we go. So after last week's disaster that led to Kevin McCarthy eventually becoming Speaker of the House, it's become clear the GOP does not have a real agenda, at least not one America wants. Hunter Biden abolishing 87,000 IRS agents, Sleepy Joe's classified documents, nothing about immigration, nothing about crime. And speaking of crime, Byron Donalds was convicted of felony bribery charges for defrauding a bank. Yes, as a state rep in Florida, he chaired the Bank and Finance Committee. He's like Rick Scott from Florida, who defrauded Medicare, and then they made him governor and a U.S. senator. This man is a true Republican. Here's a tweet from Republican Ashley Hinton. It was fact-checked on Elon Musk's new anything goes bullshit Twitter. You know how hard it is to get fact-checked on Twitter now? I mean, literally nothing in that tweet is true. So it's no wonder the likes of George Santos is welcomed into the caucus with open arms. What is he saying there? Anybody know? And by the way, they didn't defund anything. This bill would have to pass the Senate. It won't. Nothing of substance will change. Yeah. Just like the 61 times they voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act. It's a huge waste of taxpayer money. It's going to be a 2-year-long shit show led by the weakest speaker in U.S. history who only got 49% of the House votes. Yes, they didn't want him either. Check out the gaslighting here from Mercedes Schlapp, wife of CPAC head Matt Schlapp. She and many twisted individuals on the right are falsely trying to scare Americans into believing that gas stoves will be banned. She is also planning to keep her husband, who's being accused of sexually molesting a male intern. She might want to keep her vibrator as well as her stove. By the way, speaking of complete lies, how about Sean Hannity and this hot take on the GOP? It's the video.
I know you. I've known you a long time. One of the things I'd like to see, and I'm seeing, is more diversity in the Republican Party. To me, the Democratic Party is the party of coastal elites.
By the way, liberal elites, Hannity has a house in the Hamptons. By the way, a large percentage of Republicans don't tune into C-SPAN or to Congress or even read for that matter. They do tune into Fox. They react like they're instructed to, and they parrot things all day long. There's more diversity in the mayonnaise section at my local supermarket than there is in the Republican Party. By the way, one of the first 7 executive orders Sarah Huckabee Sanders made as the governor of Arkansas, it was officially banning the word Latinx from official use throughout the state government. What were they saying about liberals controlling what you can and can't say? Sanders wants to push Arkansas back to a better, more wholesome time when you could marry your cousin and run moonshine across the state. And that, my friends, is the state of today's Republican Party. I can only assume Ronald Reagan is rolling over in his grave.
As always, Joe, you don't disappoint. Well done. I'm going to go maybe in a little bit of reverse order here. A survey of Hispanics and Latin Americans have found that the vast majority prefer other terms, such as Hispanics, Latino, or Latina, describing themselves. And only 2% use Latinx. Crap. Nobody cares.
So
Latinx is the term. I understand what you're trying to say.
Right? Again, right? The bigger point is you're trying to tell people what to say.
I don't understand the ban. I really don't, because
it's ridiculous.
I honestly don't think it's necessary.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez already explained to us that Latinx is like 2 years ago. It's so out. Boomers.
Right? I mean, look at whatever, man. Nobody really cares about it. I understand your point. There should be nothing banned, right?
Yes, everybody should stop trying to tell other people what to say and do, because people hate that. People hate it on both sides. They hate it in the middle. The only people who like it are the people that are out on the far fringes of either side. And they have the words they want banned, and they want the words that you want banned. It's not going to work. Cut the crap.
I completely agree, Joe. I really do. And here's the good news, man. It's going to go away soon. It truly is. I mean, there's going to be a major uprising in the middle, right? From both sides of the party, right? The moderate Republicans and the moderate Democrats are going to start having these old school back alley meetings, and we're just going to all be talking like, all right, what do we got to do to get rid of these clowns? Because this is all jacked up. And this is truly what needs to happen. And if anybody wants to use my house as a meeting place, by all means, you can use my house. I mean,
can you imagine, Jimmy, if the squad had pulled the nonsense that the House Freedom Caucus pulled last week in basically hijacking the government from Kevin McCarthy and company? Can you imagine if AOC would have dragged her feet with Presley and the other one, the bald one? You guys would have been freaking out.
Number one,
freaking out.
Number one, they did, right? They were doing that, right? And this is why I called the Freedom Caucus the new squad, by the way, if you remember, right? It's the new squad. They're holding leadership hostage because they have the numbers. After a while, the Democrats, they didn't have the numbers anymore. So they couldn't do it. Right now, it's a numbers game, right? The majority is so slim. The majority is so slim, it could have been any 20 of them. It could have been any 15 of them. It could have been any.
Could have been, but it wasn't. It was that specific group.
Well, whatever, right? Whatever. I mean, yes, it was that specific group. Now, again, with your George guy there, in New York, again, I guarantee you, I don't want to say all of them because probably not all of them, but 95% of all the Republican caucus is like, get rid of this guy. He's bad for the party. And then somebody's like, it's a numbers game, guys. We ain't got him. We need him just for the freaking vote. Now, is that right? No, it's not right. But do I understand it? Do I get it? Sure, it's a numbers game. You know, I mean,
I could be wrong here, right? The governor of New York is a Democrat, and I assume if he were to resign, she could appoint anybody to fill the rest of that seat. Is that right?
I am not 100% sure, but Kathy
Hochul. Yeah, because the interesting thing is, and she took some heat last week. Kathy Hochul nominated to the New York's Supreme Court a super anti-abortion conservative judge, and people were like, "What the hell is this lady doing?" But she was replacing an old conservative judge with another conservative judge. And so I wonder if Kathy Hochul were to say, I'll nominate another Republican, one that really goes by the name that he was born with, and isn't lying about everything through his teeth. Would you guys go for that? Because I'll tell you right now, I do think most Democrats that are calling for George Santos to resign are hopeful that that would somehow affect that seat as far as not being Republican.
Yeah.
If and I'm saying honestly, if I don't want him there because he's a scumbag and he's everything that's wrong with today's politics, and he defrauded the voters of New York. I think it would be a great thing if Kathy Hochul were to suggest that he resign and that she would replace him with another Republican.
I think that would be a great thing. I think that would be like, I think everybody on the Hill would be like, all right, we got to do this. All right, guys, we can do this now, right? All right, let's get rid of it.
I mean, again, I think if you're being honest here, and if you're really concerned that this lying sack of dog do doesn't belong there, then do the right thing, make him resign, and nominate another Republican. Maybe you find someone a little more moderate than this guy, but again, somebody who's a Republican that the Republicans could get behind and say, yeah, we'll take him or her, do it. Put your money where your mouth is if you're the Democrats, and actually support Hochul in nominating a Republican.
I couldn't agree with you more, Joe, but I will say that he does need to go. I will say that as a Republican conservative, he needs to go. He makes us look bad, right? However, he's so far out there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's just so far out there. I don't think people are going to be like, let's put him in the same category as Ted Cruz. You know what? I don't think they're doing that.
Yeah.
You know, at least I hope they're not, right? But just real quick, you did mention something in your rant, I'll call it this time.
Yeah.
There are agencies out there that are pushing for the banning of gas stoves, Joe. Like, did you not read CNN's article on it?
No one's calling for the banning of stoves. Who's going to come get your stove?
I didn't say it. A federal agency is considering a ban on gas stoves. A CNN source.
No more making gas stoves going forward. They're dangerous. That's fine, but it's not like they're going to come confiscate your stove. What they're asking is that, right, but they're asking people just make sure it's not leaking so it doesn't kill you. It's a good thing.
It's a gas stove. It has a pilot light.
Yeah.
Right? It expends gas. Now, I get it, but the answer is not to get rid of gas stoves. The answer is, how do we improve ventilation? Because guess what? It's going to be a lot cheaper on everybody to do that. It costs you $250, $350 to put in a new vent in your house. How much is it going to cost you to not only to buy a new stove, but to convert now you got to get rid of all the natural gas. You got to friggin' get a 240 friggin' volt put in there. You got to run another line to your box. What if you don't have room in your friggin' fuse
Your
box?
neighbors will appreciate it. The idea that your house isn't going to suddenly blow up will go a long way with your neighbors.
I guarantee it, man. I guarantee it. And you know what? I have seen more electric vehicle batteries catching on fire than gas stove explosions in the past 15 years.
Sure. And also, no one's telling you have to buy an electric vehicle.
But they're telling me I can't buy a gas stove.
No one's saying you can't buy a gas stove.
Not yet.
Again, you're making some weird assumption.
No,
that's what right wing does. That's what the right does.
I said not yet. And
Okay.
and here's what the left does. No, it's fine. They're full of crap until we do it.
Do what?
Until we ban your stoves. Until you can't buy another gas stove.
Sure.
The right is making it free.
What? But what's a thing? Hold on. What's a thing you guys have said in the past that's come to fruition? I feel like I'm talking to a QAnon person here. Like you just keep kicking the can down the road. Like, the Great Awakening's next week. It's not this week. We got the date wrong. Everybody come back to Dallas Airport next week. Nothing like that is happening.
Then I can compare that. I can say the same thing. I can say the same thing about every freaking Democrat. You want to know why? Because the country's still standing after Donald Trump. World War III didn't happen after Donald Trump, during Donald Trump. America didn't fall. America didn't
Hold
fall.
on. Did you hear what John Bolton said this week?
Right?
Did you hear what John Bolton said this week? John Bolton,
Trump, right?
John Bolton said, and there's been people that backed up what he said, that Donald Trump was planning to pull out of NATO and would have allowed in his second term Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine, and he wasn't going to do anything about it.
Just like
there you go.
Just like he's selling all the new codes. Just like he was going to sell America to Russia and China.
Well, let's wait and see when all these lawsuits end where he ends up.
And we're all going to go to hell for following it. Like, come on, man. We can what if all day long. But here's the bottom line. None of it has come to any kind of fruition. Not the Russia hoax, not freaking any of that crap that it was ever freaking said he was going to do.
Because people stopped it from happening. Thank God.
So you right now are fully basing your freaking mind thought on something that never happened.
There was 122 unreported contacts between the Trump administration. And by the way, if you know anything about Paul Manafort, just the idea that was the campaign manager was a signal to the Russians that they were down to play ball. Do you know Paul Manafort is not allowed in Ukraine? He's been banned for life from the Ukraine. That if he were ever to go to Ukraine, he would be put in jail.
Wow. In all seriousness, what did Russia gain with Donald Trump in office?
No repercussions for any of their actions. No repercussions for any of their actions.
They invaded Ukraine during Donald Trump's presidency. They took Crimea, during a Republican presidency.
No, they did it while there was a do-nothing Republican Congress, though. That was nothing but obstructionist under President Barack Obama and tied his hands. Then you guys set up Joe Biden by saying he was an incompetent moron. And so Putin was like, I'll just do it and we'll see what happens. And now you guys are saying, let's not support democracy. Let's not help Ukraine.
Yes.
I mean, come on. Yes. Make it a little more obvious whose side you're on.
Because the Republicans had...
The question is whether or not we should be in a position where you are, why can't the
Yes, the Republicans needed to show the world how much of a moron he is. You're right. You know what? This is how we did it, right? This is how we did it. I'm going to show you. There it is. There he is. There's your president right there. That's all we had to do. We didn't have to do anything. You can't blame us for his stupidity, brother. Just like I don't blame you guys for Donald Trump's idiousness. He's a freaking idiot. He's tweeting at 3 a.m. while taking a dump on the toilet. He ain't working. He's an old man. He had to get up. He had to take a crap. Oh, screw it. I'll tweet. Right? He's an idiot. I'll be the first one to say it. But Joe Biden ain't any better. And I guarantee you, he's got fewer brain cells up in there rattling around. If you want me to play the video again, I will. The Republicans didn't need to show anybody anything of Joe Biden's weakness.
I think if you've ever shown me one thing when it comes to compilation videos, it's that they're nonsense. That I could easily string together a whole bunch of the worst moments that you've had into a 45-second video and be like, this guy's a moron. Stop it.
You know what? You can do that to me probably in 10 minutes. You can take, but here's the difference, Joe. Hold on.
Yeah.
Here's the difference. Jimmy J is not the freaking president of the United States.
Right. Joe Biden is. And to disrespect him by questioning his cognitive abilities to our enemies only embolden the enemies. And then for people like Donald Trump and other Republicans after the invasion last February to praise Vladimir Putin's boldness and bravery and military wit when he's getting his ass kicked by a ragtag army of like volunteers, for Christ's sake. How embarrassing. And for some reason, the Republican Party is on Vladimir Putin's side. Explain that.
How are they on Vladimir Putin?
They don't want to fund the war anymore. They're like, yeah, that's enough. Despite the fact that the Ukrainians in the last 3 months have taken back all of the land that was taken from them in the first place. And right now, Putin's in a spot where they can't even control Crimea. They don't even have access from Russia to Crimea through Ukraine because of the amazing work of the Ukrainian military. And by the way, the money that we have given to Ukraine, they have decimated the Russian military. The Russian military's lost over 100,000 troops and nearly 20,000 generals. The Russian military will never be the same after this war with Ukraine because of the money that we've given them. And the Republicans want to end the gravy train and hope that Vladimir Putin wins that war. That's twisted. Twisted.
I think you are now taking the truth and stretching it a little.
Marjorie Taylor Greene insists that they have to stop funding the Ukrainian war. Donald Trump Jr., I think, called Zelensky a money-grubbing whore or something to that effect. So it's very real. And again, this is why I'm saying I think the Republicans, you need someone to lead your party, someone who's sane, someone who lives in reality. It's not Donald Trump. It's not Kevin.
Oh, what happened? Did you freeze or did I freeze? I don't know who froze, Joe. Did I freeze?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to respond this way.
Please.
When Marjorie Taylor Greene represents every Republican, I will kill myself. When Marjorie Taylor Greene represents the entire Republican Party, I will say that you are right. But there are some Republicans, that don't want to give any more money to Ukraine. That doesn't mean they want Putin to win, Joe.
Well, what do you think's going to happen if we stop funding the war? Come on, you're a smart guy. You're a military guy. They'd be screwed without us.
Number one, I firmly believe that it's only a matter of time before Russia wipes out Ukraine. I've said that from the beginning, right?
They're losing. They're badly losing that war right now.
I think it's an amazing testament to the Ukrainian military forces and their leadership that they've come this far, that they are doing what they're doing. But I think it's just a matter of time. I truly and honestly do. And I don't like saying that because that's not a good outcome, truly. But, and I'm a military guy. And I'm a numbers guy. The numbers are on the Russian side.
5% of our defense budget has eliminated half of Russia's army.
I thought it was less than that.
And 20,000 generals. Again, if that's our number one or 1A enemy along with China, the return on investment for the money that we've given them to weaken the Russian army like we have, I mean, we could not find a better scenario. 5% of our defense budget has wiped out half of Russia's military. That
Oh,
is
no.
a great ROI.
You know what? You sound like 90% of the freaking Republican Party that's already come on the news and said that, man.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
So,
finish him off.
Again, Marjorie Taylor Greene does not represent the Republican Party.
But Marjorie Taylor Greene just leveraged her power with Kevin McCarthy.
Party, you said the Republican Party wants Putin to win. Now, you're going to take that back now or no? Because you just said that 95% of the Republican parties have said the exact same thing as you, that it's a great return on investment. And I actually thought it was 3%, but if you're telling me 5, I'll go with 5. I thought it was less than 5, which was...
I'm rounding up.
Because I was like, no, because I was waiting to get, past this and be like, look it, that's where I was going to go, right? As a Republican. Shh. Because you're not going to get a better profit margin. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Again, you know what the problem is, though? For people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, the idea that Joe Biden and the Democrats are kicking the crap out of Russia in this proxy war, they don't like it. They don't like it. And I don't understand that. Again, it's like the success of our country is good for all of us. And a lot of the people in your party don't see it that way. And it scares me.
Don't like the money going over. Now, is that short-sighted? Of course it is. Of course it is. Right? But you know what, Joe? If we want to do this, we can go back and forth where these people
we always do.
literally do want to defund the police.
Nobody wants to defund the police.
Okay. Do you want me to pull the clip? No, I want to get rid of the police. We need to put social services in its place. I can. Right?
Yeah, nobody of any substance has ever said that.
If you want to bring up one Democrat or one Republican and charge them to the entire Republican Party, I can do that too. That's my point. That's absurd that you do that. That's absurd. And it's not cool, man. It's not fair. It's absurd. And now, you know what? And this is why people watch Fox, because that is...
Last week, I watched 20 Republicans hijack the government for 4 days.
They didn't hijack anything.
They did. Nobody could be sworn into office. Nobody could get their clearance, their committee assignments.
Tell me what statute they broke. Tell me what law they broke. Tell me what process they
Jimmy, there's a reason that hasn't happened in 150 years.
Of course, but it's not against the law. It wasn't against democracy. It's been done. It happens. It's within
it happened during the Civil War 150 years ago.
Then Come on. Freaking changed it. They should have changed it. Right?
This is the most idiotic and weakest Speaker of the House in history.
The weakest?
This is the weakest, Speaker of the House we've ever had.
I'm tending to agree with you.
One person could basically call for his head, and they have to start the proceedings. That was kind of idiotic of him.
The proceedings, however, not one person can just be like, "No, you're fired," right? They got to start the proceedings over, blah blah. And it's just
I can tell you 212 people that'll vote along with that. They're called the Democrats.
More and more waste of freaking time, right? And I hope that these idiots see that. It's just a waste of time. Who would you have rather have seen as Speaker of the House?
Honestly, it's funny. I saw this meme on Facebook. It said, only in America could a black guy win the vote 14 times in a row and still not get the job.
Hakeem Jeffries?
Yeah, dude.
What you're talking about?
That's kind of hilarious. He won 14 votes in a row and obviously doesn't get the job. Only in America. I thought that was kind of funny. You got to admit that's a good one.
You are completely misspeaking, and you know it. You are completely misspeaking. So please go ahead and inform our viewers and listeners why you are completely misspeaking.
I'm not misspeaking. He did win all of those votes. Unfortunately, didn't have enough of the votes. Same as Kevin McCarthy, but he got more votes than Kevin McCarthy. Correct.
He didn't win, so you can say
But he got the most votes, which is how voting generally goes.
No. He beat Kevin McCarthy by a couple votes, but he didn't win the majority. of the
He
vote.
beat him by 12 votes in like eight of the
But
ballots.
he didn't win the majority.
Correct.
So he didn't win. So you can't
Well,
say that he
he
won.
got the most votes. But again,
No,
if we were,
he didn't get the majority of votes.
he got the most votes in 14 of the voting counts.
13.
14 of the 15. He got the most votes.
It was 13. Don't exaggerate anymore.
Yeah, was it only 13? Again, you have to admit that is kind of funny.
You know what? It's a shame. You and I talked about this. I think it's embarrassing for the Republican Party. I didn't like seeing it on television. I don't think the world liked it. No Republicans didn't like it. I know Democrats were sitting back laughing their freaking hairy butts off, right? However, Joe, right? Do I think it was awful? No, I can't say that it was that bad because it's democracy at work. It's these 20, I don't want to say that. It's these 20 holdouts, these 20 Freedom Caucus people.
Dan Crenshaw called them traitors.
Well, we've talked about Dan Crenshaw, man, right? And we can talk about Priscilla Presley. We can talk about, Rashida Tlaib. We can talk about all of them idiots, right? However, those 20 were fighting for their constituents at first.
And then they started fighting for themselves, and they all sold out because they're all the swamp.
At first, right? That's not a bad thing. That's what you want in your state leaders. I would want Dick Blumenthal, even though I don't like him, to go and fight for our rights as Connecticut.
He does.
Nutmeggers? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Nutmeggers? No, he doesn't. And you know that, man. He's the richest senator in Congress. Just by marriage. And he's a liar. But anyways, never mind. He doesn't care, right? That's Dick Blumenthal. But I would hope that he would. Chris Murphy may do it for a lot of people, right? And I would hope that they would, right? What I don't like, and you mentioned this, and I agree with you, I do, is if you turn on any news station right now besides conservative news stations, every single person is saying the same exact thing. Like verbatim.
What's that?
I don't know right now because I'm on with you, but they do, right? And they this is what the Democrats are good at. This is why they win elections, because they hammer messages home. Every single outlet, every single freaking Democrat, every single one of them get behind a message and they hammer that thing home. They hammer it home. I don't know how many Republican governors really wanted to ban, outright ban on abortion. There was like, 13 maybe? I don't know. No, not even. It was like 5. Was there 5 governors that wanted outright bans? But yet we were the biggest. Every Republican wanted to do it. And they just kept hammering it and hammering it and hammering it, right? And they're really, really good at that. Because they just fall in line like freaking sheep, man. I don't want that as a leader.
The fact that you think that is exactly the reason you guys keep losing election after election after election. And you're going to lose. You're going to lose. You're going to give the House. You're going to give the House back in 2 years. You're going to see bigger gains in the Senate and another Democrat in the White House in 2 years because of exactly what you just said.
I completely understand that. I do. Right. Yeah. And I say this is why I give credit to the Democrats. Did I not? What did I say? I said they're very, very good at it. But they're freaking sheep, in my opinion. Why can't I have my own opinion? If I do, I'm a freaking bad person. I don't understand that. I don't. Because you can't tell me that every one of those freaking people really believed that every Republican wanted to take your freaking rights away. But yet they said it. And they hammered it home, right? And they're very good at it.
Listen, Jimmy, the fact that no Republican can come out and speak intelligently on controversial issues, and because conservatives have to kowtow to the lowest common denominator in the party, which is the Trump group, you can't say anything smart. You can't say anything that might be pro-left. And so it puts you in a really weird spot. And until the Republican Party completely cuts that group out, that's you're going to be held hostage by not only the 20 renegades in the White House or in the House, but by Donald Trump's entire base of white nationalist losers.
I think we won't. I don't think Donald Trump is even going to win the nomination, to be honest with you. I don't think we're going to be here. I mean, he'll make a lot of noise, right?
Hope not.
I mean, he'll make a little noise here and there for the next 2 years. But after that, I honestly think that even the most staunch conservative are looking for a change. We really are. You know what
Jimmy,
I mean?
2 weeks ago, I suggested that Republicans move on from Donald Trump. And I got to tell you, dude, people had meltdowns about that idea.
I believe it. But how many people call your show?
A lot. A lot. And most of them were really upset about Donald Trump in the eye going, why don't you like Donald Trump? He was great. Tell me all the great things he did.
A lot of people call your show. It's great, but compared to all the voters out, all the Republicans, no, right? We're tiny, right? I'm on a conservative talk show, man. Tiny. The vast majority, and let's face it. You know, I don't want to say anything else, but maybe I'll say something off the air to you. But I gotta believe, because you know what? You can see it in the news, right? Donald Trump isn't dominating the airwaves anymore. People are kind of, I think, moving on. And
they should be moving on.
I hope so, right? I do. And I think that you're going to find that these 20 eventually will too. I don't think that they were in it for Donald Trump. I think they were in it for themselves, right? So we'll find out. We just started, right? Session just started. We're going to find out soon enough.
It's going to be a disaster.
We'll find out. Well, you know, it's a lame duck anyway, so who cares? I mean, it can't be that much of a disaster.
All the more reason to make it a disaster. I'm telling you, they could really do themselves some serious favors by getting their act together and trying to lead and actually having some ideas. Because I promise you right now, if it's the disaster I think it's going to be, and if last week was the indicator, you're going to hand the House right back over. You're going to give the White House right back to them, and the Senate majority is going to get even wider. And then you'll have to worry about the liberal agenda, because then they'll start really banging it home. You'll see.
Yeah, there'll be no more gas stoves. There'll be no more gas cars.
Yeah, that's right. Electric cars and no gas stoves. You're asking for it. Get it together.
If you drive one of the H1 Hummers, you're going to jail.
Yeah,
Joe,
you're gonna be deported to Russia if you have a Hummer at this point. Don't do it.
Hey Joe, how we doing on time, bud? Are we good or what? You want to keep going or?
We're over. We're way over on time.
Man, it was just too much fun tonight, brother.
I enjoyed it.
All right, so I guess we got to wrap it up. Thank you guys very much for watching. For the Adonis over there, Joe Aguiar, I am Jimmy J saying good night and God bless.